Welcome to Sport on 5. I'm Sophie Blake with over 5 hours of football action for you. We started in Holland with league leaders PSV up against Heerenveen. We shoot off to Argentina for Boca Juniors versus Banfield, plus all the highlights from the other games in the Torneo Clausura. And we wind up with a replay special and Dundee United versus Celtic from the CIS Scottish Cup final. But without further ado, let's get stuck into the action with the game of the week from Holland and the Dutch Eredivisie. Heerenveen are the hosts, hoping to put a stop to PSV's charge towards the title. Commentary from Tim Capel.
It doesn't get much bigger than this. Celtic against Liverpool, the UEFA Cup quarter-final, Thursday at 7:45, live and exclusive on 5.
Now on 5, kickboxing begins a night of sport.
Welcome to Sport on 5. My name is Sophie Blake, and on tonight's show, the best fighters in action in Muay Thai rules kickboxing, followed by heavyweight boxing from the USA with Friday Ahunanya versus Terence Lewis, and then there's Winter X Games. Highlights of all the league action from Argentina, followed by the game of the week and Boca Juniors versus Banfield. We'll be going to that in just a couple of minutes, but first your chance to check out the action for tomorrow and Thursday. Tomorrow night there's more ice hockey with Nick Collin and Russell Chamberlain and the Dallas Stars at the Minnesota Wild. That's followed by NHL replay and fast tracks. On Thursday it's football night with Jonathan Pearce. There's the game of the week from Holland with Zwolle versus Ajax, followed by action from Argentina and highlights of the latest round of league fixtures, plus the whole 90 minutes of their game of the week. Back to tonight, and with the dearth of top-class boxing on terrestrial TV, in fact any kind of boxing, we know we've already got a regular audience for our Fight of the Week, featuring a mix of world-class champions, contenders and top prospects. That's coming up in an hour, but first, top flight kickboxing with Now Is the Time Night of Combat.
Now is the time Night of Combat, in association with GWS Gandhi Wine Supply.
Welcome to tonight's show. Now is the time, Night of Combat, here at the Aston Villa Leisure Centre, Birmingham. I'm Malcolm Martin, and with me I have Cara Tobin. And Cara, tonight really is the time for this exciting sport.
Absolutely. This is a sport that is going from strength to strength. And we have a very exciting show for you tonight. We believe this is the ultimate ring fighting formula. In fact, it's the only combat sport which can boast a live audience of 70,000 people and a pay-per-view sellout.
That's right. Tonight we're going to take you on a journey you will not forget. Thanks to Ali Jacko and JKO Promotions, the man that's single-handedly driving the sport forward on television, and his co-promoter Paul Hennessy from Show Sport International. Now by now I imagine they're wondering what this is. Well, let me tell you, it's the premier combat sport. But let my friend Michael Buffer take you on the journey. This is K1.
Good evening and welcome to another night of football from Sport on 5. Many thanks to Jonathan and the boys. The great man will be back next week with the best informed half hour of football on TV. My name is Sophie Blake, and for the next 5 hours we feature non-stop action with Celtic versus Liverpool in the UEFA Cup, Zwolle versus Ajax from Holland and River Plate versus Chacarita from Argentina. Plus all the highlights from the other games in last weekend's Torneo Clausura. Just before we get stuck into that lot, a note for your diaries. On Sunday night, there's some great ice hockey action on the way with the Florida Panthers at the Pittsburgh Penguins. Your hosts, as usual, will be Nick Collin and Russell Chamberlain. Don't forget, later tonight, football from Argentina and Holland with Ajax and River Plate in action. But first, another chance to see tonight's Battle of Britain with the UEFA Cup quarter-final first leg between Celtic and Liverpool. All the action now from Celtic Park with Jonathan Pearce.
Celtic Park.
Good evening and welcome to another evening of sporting drama here on 5. Coming up, there's USPGA golf, NASCAR, Ironman triathlon, boxing and football from Holland with Zwolle versus Ajax. But first, a look ahead to the rest of the week. Tomorrow night is fight night and it kicks off appropriately with boxing. That's followed by Winter X Games, Argentinian football highlights and the full 90 minutes of their game of the week. On Wednesday, we start with freestyle skiing, and then there's NHL ice hockey with the San Jose Sharks at the Colorado Avalanche. And that's followed by fast tracks with the latest in power sports action. On Thursday, there's Jonathan Pearce's football night, followed by the Dutch game of the week, Vitesse versus PSV. And from Argentina, the top game from the Torneo Apertura, San Lorenzo versus Boca Juniors. Plus highlights from the other fixtures of the weekend and a bonus replay of the CIS Scottish Cup final between Celtic and Rangers.
The stage is set. 8 warriors, 1 ring, 1 night of breathless action, and when the bell tolls for the final time, there will be only 1 champion. A fighter must be powerful to win 3 matches in 1 day. K1 means more than physical power. It means the strength of spirit. Now is the time, Night of Combat, the ultimate combat experience. Share the power on Channel 5. This is K1 UK Max.
But on to the action now, and we start with USPGA Golf. We're off to Florida for the Honda Classic. See you in an hour for NASCAR. Welcome to Sport on 5. My name is Sophie Blake, and on tonight's show, the best fighters in action in Muay Thai rules kickboxing, followed by boxing from the USA, and then there's Indy Racing League. Highlights of all the league action from Argentina, followed by the game of the week with San Lorenzo versus Boca Juniors. We'll be going to the action in just a couple of minutes, but first, your chance to check out the action for tomorrow and Thursday. Tomorrow night, there's golf with the Jebel Ali Challenge, followed by ice hockey with Nick Collin and Russell Chamberlain, and the Pittsburgh Penguins at the New York Rangers. That's followed by NHL replay and fast tracks. On Thursday, it's football night with Jonathan Pearce. There's the game of the week from Holland and a big one. It's PSV versus Ajax. And then there's action from Argentina with highlights of the latest round of league fixtures, plus the whole 90 minutes of their game of the week, Independiente versus Vélez Sarsfield. And a 5 classic replay with Newcastle versus Croatia Zagreb from the UEFA Cup in 1997. Back to tonight, and time now for top flight kickboxing with Now Is the Time, Night of Combat.
Now is the time, Night of Combat, in association with GWS Gandhi Wine Supply.
Welcome to Sport on 5. My name is Sophie Blake, and on tonight's show, the best fighters in action in Muay Thai rules kickboxing, followed by boxing from the USA, and then there's NHL ice hockey in its new Tuesday night slot with the Boston Bruins at the Ottawa Senators, presented by Nick Collin and Russell Chamberlain as ever. We'll be going to the action in just a couple of minutes, but first, your chance to check out the action for tomorrow and Thursday. Wednesday, there's golf with the Digicel Jamaican Seniors from the European Seniors Tour, followed by more ice hockey with Nick Collin and Russell Chamberlain, and the Montreal Canadiens at the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's followed by Aussie Rules football and fast tracks. On Thursday, it's football night with Jonathan Pearce. There's the game of the week from Holland and Feyenoord versus Heerenveen, and then there's action from Argentina with highlights of the latest round of league fixtures, plus the whole 90 minutes of their game of the week, River Plate versus Arsenal, and a snowboarding special, the Park City Jib Jam. Back to tonight, and time for top flight kickboxing with Now Is the Time, Night of Combat.
Now is the time, Night of Combat, in association with GWS Gandhi Wine Supply. Welcome to Now is the Time Night of Combat. I'm Cara Tobin, and we are here again in the George H. Carnell Centre in Manchester, England, for another great night of fight action. They say that Manchester, England is the home of British Muay Thai, and tonight you will see why. So let's take a look at the fight card and get on with the action.
Good evening and welcome to another night of football from Sports on 5. Many thanks to Jonathan and the boys. He'll be back next week. My name is Sophie Blake, and for the next 5 hours we feature non-stop action with a mighty clash in the Dutch Eredivisie. That's Feyenoord versus Heerenveen coming up in just a few minutes. Then later there's River Plate versus Arsenal, the top game from Argentina, plus all the highlights from the other games in last weekend's Torneo Clausura. And we round off the night with a snowboarding special and the Park City Jib Jam. Find out what the lip slide and the nose bomb is later tonight with that Extreme Sports special. Just before we get stuck into that lot, a note for your diaries. On Sunday night, there's more baseball with Johnny Gould and Josh Chetwynd, and it's the world champions, the Anaheim Angels at the Oakland A's. A clash between two favourites for the World Series, so a good game in prospect. Don't forget later tonight, football from Argentina, but now we're off to Heerenveen for their game against Feyenoord and the game of the week from the Dutch Eredivisie. Tim Capel is our host. Good evening and welcome to Sport on 5. I'm Sophie Blake, and what an evening we've got for you. There's NASCAR Busch Series racing from the Talladega Superspeedway, FIM World Supercross from Houston, Motorsport Mandal, the opening round of the FIM Motocross from Baupuy in Spain, and Dutch football. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's look at the week ahead. Tomorrow night, our boxing fight of the week features Ray Mercer versus Robert Wiggins, followed by a special preview of the National Hockey League playoffs with Nick and Russell. On Wednesday, we travel to the Royal Westmoreland Barbados Open for the European Seniors Tour Golf. Then it's across to Nick and Russell for NHL Ice Hockey playoff action, Aussie Rules footy, and finally Fast Tracks. Thursday night, we take in our usual mix of Premier football action, kicking off with De Graafschap versus Feyenoord. Boca Juniors take on Olimpo, followed by Clausura highlights, and then finally there's Major League Soccer action with LA Galaxy when they take on Columbus Crew. Then at the weekend on Sunday, we take in a Major League Baseball game. It's LA Dodgers at San Francisco Giants with Johnny and Josh. But first tonight, it's time for the latest round of the US PGA Tour from the Deep South with the Bell South Classic. Retief Goosen is the defending champion in this $4 million tournament. Let's join the action. Good evening and welcome to another night of football from Sport on 5. Many thanks to Mark and the boys. My name is Sophie Blake, and for the next 5 hours we feature non-stop action with a mighty clash in the Dutch Eredivisie. That's De Graafschap versus Feyenoord coming up in just a few minutes. Then later there's Boca Juniors versus Olimpo, the top game from Argentina, plus all the highlights from the other games in last weekend's Torneo Clausura. And we round off the night with a big game from the USA and the LA Galaxy versus the Columbus Crew. Just before we get stuck into that lot, a note for your diaries. On Sunday night, there's more baseball with Johnny Gould and Josh Chetwynd, and the top game of the night is a big California derby with the Los Angeles Dodgers at the San Francisco Giants. Don't forget later tonight, football from Argentina, but now we're off to De Graafschap for their game against Feyenoord and the game of the week from the Dutch Eredivisie. Tim Capel is our host. Plenty more where that came from next week, same time, same place. And to continue the motorsport theme, we're off to round 15 of the FIM World Supercross Grand Prix from the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan.